10 Steps Further is a podcast designed to help you get 10 steps further along your spiritual journey. If you've been on your journey for 30 years or 30 minutes, if you believe in God, or even if you're not sure He exists, all we're trying to do is help you get 10 steps further. I'm Jonathan, and this is Jack, and we're just taking a walk. Why don't you join us? Welcome back to 10 Steps Further. For you, the listener, we were just here last week. For us, a lot has happened since we last recorded.
Yeah.
So we are here with Lesley, the voice of all women.
Hello.
And we are here with Jack and myself, Jonathan.
And we are all 6 feet apart.
6
We
feet apart.
are. You can watch us on YouTube, right?
That's right, yeah. I'm uploading them recently. So.
Yeah. So I just... We have this podcast to do, but I just wanted to keep talking.
Just haven't been around anybody but our families.
I know. It was good therapy for me because I was sharing about how much more tired I am. And Lesley says, well, dude, you're an extrovert. Like, you're not around anybody.
Yeah.
So then I'm not sure I really believed her until like 5 minutes into our conversation. And I keep jabbering on and getting more and more enthusiastic.
Don't leave.
It's so true.
How many people are in your house right now? 4?
Yes, but my son and his girlfriend are coming to our house tonight.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, so that'll be fun.
That should give you some energy.
Yeah.
How long are they staying?
They're staying through Sunday.
Yeah, that'll be some great
They'll get
energy.
to go to
That's
church
right.
with us.
Nice.
In your living room.
As in watch TV.
Okay, so we're all pastor people, and if you're just listening, let's just talk for a second. Like that, this doesn't apply to any of you guys, but speaking in front of a camera,
Right.
so hard.
Oh, yeah. So my mom used to work at a news place where they film the news.
That's what they call it, John.
Yeah,
A
news
news
place.
place.
I don't know. I need Monica.
studio?
I
A
need
studio?
Monica, our newscaster friends, on here. But yeah, my mom used to work. She was like a receptionist. I remember going back and just seeing, like, you get this sense that they're in this big room, and it's literally this tiny little room with like great lights and a great camera that's 6 feet away from 8 feet away from them, and they're talking to the camera when they're talking to the world. And that's their. I don't know that I could do that. Like, one thing about ministry is you're actually talking to people. Like, you see the people.
The funny thing was, Chad last week was telling me, this is what I want you to say in the announcement. I want you to remind people of this. And then he said, have you watched any YouTube videos? I'm like, well, I watch them with my daughter. She's like, does the 24-hour challenges. She watches all these weird things. He's like, yeah. So those people basically just like, get your inner YouTuber. Like, you have to be, I was like, oh,
you need to just have your daughter do the announcement.
Okay, well, so here's what you don't have to deal with. Like, I record myself, and then I record myself again, because you can never get it right.
Never.
And then on Sunday, I'm watching myself.
I know.
That's the worst.
And I'm 57, man, and I haven't had a haircut in forever. So self-conscious about all that kind of
That's
stuff.
so funny. Yeah. Watching it back. That's the thing, is like, what kind of, and part of it is like better gear, better cameras, better lights, make people look better, and then people with better know-how. Like, we're learning it as we go.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, everybody who
Yeah.
are that, it's like people who are watching is like, wow, are they all just getting younger? Or we're gonna start hiring makeup people.
My son's teacher said the other day when we were on a Zoom call, she said, so I basically have the analogy of I'm learning to fly a jet and building it at the same time. Like, I'm not even flying a fully functional jet,
Yep.
Yeah.
So true.
Just make it up as you go.
That's what we're all doing.
Well, that's what they told you about when you started a church. It's
Yeah.
like building a house in a hurricane. Just when something flies by, nail it down. That's basically that's what you're trying to do.
Try to grab it.
That's right.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, man, weird time of life. Okay, so how are you feeling? I'll just tell you, my energy's low, and I've been a little bit more tired, and it's funny. I went to the chiropractor because I threw out my back, and she said, "Why?" I said, "Why did I throw out my back?" And she says, "Well, it's because you got a video game."
You told her that?
Yeah, I told her that.
I loaned
shouldn't
that
have
video
said
game
that.
to you. Actually.
Best thing about the Corona deal was I have a buddy, Rob Sobey, and I was bored. I said, man, you have a video game system? He brought 4 video game systems to my house. And then I called Jonathan up and says, hey, you got any extra games that I could play?
So I raided the kids' room.
He raided the kids' room and
Like,
he brought me
what do you guys
one. It's so addicting, but that's why I threw out my bag.
Well, the biggest thing to really key in on there is that he said he was bored, because let me tell you, I was so bitter when he said that on the conversation because I didn't have 1 second free to be bored with 3 little
you don't
children.
Borrow a video game? You don't
No.
have
When he said that, I literally got off the call and I was like, Matt, I feel so hot right now. I'm so upset that he was bored. How in the world is he bored?
This right here is the voice of all women.
When were you angry with me?
Okay, I wasn't really angry with you so much. It's just the fact that you could have possibly said you were bored. I was like, how can you be bored? I have 65 million things for you to do if you're bored.
I can have tons of stuff to do and still be bored because all this stuff is boring.
Oh, my
Anyway.
gosh,
the whole
that
point
is
of video
so funny.
games.
Okay, craziest thing that's happened to you. We're going to, and let me tell you where we're going, just so you,
Okay.
I mean, we're just kind of wandering around if you're just listening.
Sort of just going with the
Yeah,
coronavirus.
There's a couple of things that we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
Is the coronavirus a curse on, is it a plague?
Right.
Is it a
curse
judgment?
from God,
Some people,
yeah.
some people have said it's a judgment from God. We're going to talk about that.
Right.
We're also going to talk about some of the lessons that we've got. And I have this great article about the 10 things that I've learned.
Okay.
It's from Shabbat.org. It's a Jewish organization. She did a really good job. I looked this in the third page of Google. It took me that long because
find
everybody else, what
anybody.
did I learn?
Yeah.
Everybody else says, what'd you learn from the coronavirus? Well, we're polluting the planet and you always should wash your hands. And yeah, I'm not going to do that
Yeah,
one. But some good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to get. But what's the craziest thing that's happened to you? Let me give you mine, all right?
Please.
I'm on a Zoom call with about 20 other pastors from our denomination. My daughter comes out. She's 17 years old, and she says, Dad, I'm so bored. Can I do your makeup? So while I'm on the Zoom call,
Stop.
she does my makeup.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to maybe put this
The
on our
way you're
show
saying
notes.
she does
Oh
my
my
makeup is
gosh.
as if you normally do your own makeup.
Yeah. Can I do your makeup instead of you today?
Now that I have been videotaping myself, I think I need makeup, but not this makeup.
Yeah.
Like it was pancake makeup.
So
and it
all
was
your pastor friends were just like, what's happening?
purple lip. Well, they split us off. There's like 20, and people aren't really saying anything to you. And then they split you off into these prayer groups.
Right.
And one guy said, "Man, it's really hard to take you seriously right now."
Oh, that is crazy. I don't have anything that crazy. But I will say one of the things that's been really awesome about this is that about 5 of my friends and I started making sourdough bread, which is not a little process.
Wow.
It's not a little process.
No.
You take the starter and you have to feed it twice a day for multiple days, and then it makes so much. So the starter that I originally had, I've now passed on to 6 other people, and they're now making sourdough bread. But then on top of it, you get all this extra starter that you don't need. So then we've just been baking like crazy because you can use that to make. We've made we've made craisins,
I
flaxseed
gotta somehow
muffins.
one up that.
We've
you
made
reading my mind?
pancakes,
Like-
waffles.
Jonathan, what are you thinking? Well, she's sharing all this. Like,
That we need
where's my sourdough bread?
So Jelaine
I
actually
need something to eat while I'm playing my video game.
and bored. I need something to eat while I'm bored.
Yep.
Jelaine actually asked me. She was like, "I want some of that," and I didn't know if she meant the starter or just a loaf of sourdough bread. But I will.
Knowing
I
my
will get
wife,
there.
it's bread.
Right.
But
Anyway,
I
it's been
would take
really
the starter.
fun.
That sounds great. I
It's
would
been
totally do
super
that.
fun. It's been a lot of fun. My kids wake up every morning and there's
Yeah.
something new. We made
Yeah.
cinnamon rolls one day. Every
Oh,
there's
wow.
something. Every day there's something new.
Yeah, I was eating so bad already. I'm trying.
You're
to,
up, aren't you?
Yeah,
Can I tell
I-
our listening audience
I-
that you gained weight?
I think I hit 220, and it wasn't good 220. I don't know if there is a two.
There is. There is.
At 6 foot. I'm just not sure, but yeah. So then it's like, okay, let's start working out. But probably the thing we did early on, we're just like, okay, everything's the first week or so is like, what exactly is going to happen? The
Right.
kids come home from school, all that, and so we decided to make a movie with the kids, and so we've been just going out with my phone and my boys. And
But
my
we don't know
daughter.
what happens.
Yeah, so it's
We
it's
have
a
2
full
episodes
on. We're 2
in.
episodes. There
We
will
don't know
only
what
be
happened.
of this series. There will only be 3. We will finish it. If anybody wants to check it out, it's called The Corona Chronicles. No, the COVID Chronicles, and we've done 2 episodes. They're like 1 minute each.
Oh, we'll put those on the show notes too. They're really fun.
They're super
they are
fun.
fun.
We want to know what's in the bag. What Asher's carrying around
it's all,
in the bag.
So we do have a plan behind it, but we'll see.
So
that is fun.
Some good coming out of this family connection. I'm having this great connection with my kids. But there's some, I was walking down the street, and a buddy of mine, Ron, stopped me.
Right.
He's in our band. And he says, you know what I want to know? I want to know, is this a judgment?
Yeah.
I want to know, because things like this have happened.
Right.
If you look at the Old Testament,
right.
there are all kinds of plagues. And ironically, I'm reading through the book of Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
And as you read through the book of Exodus, obviously, there are the 10 plagues on Egypt.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And we all know about that. And we kind of get it, right? Yeah. Like, Pharaoh won't let the people go, so God brings flies, and then it's frogs, and it gets progressively worse and worse and worse as Pharaoh hardens his heart. So we can sort of get that, right?
Yeah.
Okay? People of Israel, they start heading off down into the desert. Well, then they make a golden calf.
Right.
And at the end of the day, God allows a plague to hit Israel in which multiple hundreds of, I don't know, even know how many people died from the plague.
Right.
So what do you say to people like that? I was in a conversation with my wife, and somebody said to her, I think this coronavirus was a judgment on China. Go, wait, what?
That's a stretch. It's just like, well, it went a lot further than China.
Yeah, it seems like it should have stayed in China then.
And I'm never that person.
Right.
So Jonathan, how do you answer somebody like that?
I don't go there too quickly. I mean, the thing about the Egyptian plagues, or even probably all of the plagues that you see that were judgments from God, you knew why they were there. Like specifically, what brought this on? Not that we haven't done things that are deserving as a human race, but the fact that it was very specific. In the case of Egypt, there's something that God's telling you to do.
In the case of Israel, they had just gotten the 10 Commandments.
Right.
They promised that they were going to follow God and nobody else.
Yeah.
And then they made a golden calf.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it was like a clear connection to it versus we're just going along with our lives. Now, there are judgments that come, and in one sense, I would say God allows everything that happens. Like God, him not causing people to suffer is mercy and grace. Like, that's where I stand, is just like the fact that we get good years is grace and mercy and goodness. Right. And so he allows things, and the ideal purpose is still the same, that we would cry out to him. But is he like, you know what, those people are bad, I'm gonna kill the older ones and a few of the younger ones, and that, because that's kind of what this thing is doing. I was like, I feel like people get sick. Like, that's part of people get sick, and these types of things happen, and there's but
we're kind of on a 100-year cycle of that, right?
Yeah, that's something. My son came home right at the very beginning of this whole thing, before anybody was out of school or any businesses were shut down, and he came home and he said, hey, we learned in school today, and they were talking specifically about the coronavirus, that since the year 1200, every 100 years there's been something like this. And so, there's been a lot of talk about the Spanish flu, what happened in the previous 100 years ago, close to 100 years ago. But he came home before this whole thing was going on. He's like, this happens seemingly every 100 years, which got my mind going of just like, is this like just kind of a different kind of a season that the earth goes through? Yeah. That, just like it needs a break from people. And so it shuts them down for a short period. And I don't know. It was just interesting to me.
Yeah.
I think the part that I've thought about this a lot also in thinking about like historical context of the Bible, you have like the whole picture when you're looking at it. Like we're in it, living in it right now. And I feel like there's things that we don't know about or we don't understand. So I don't know. I think that it's really interesting when we compare like plagues or things that happened a long time ago in the Bible, or the wrath of God from a long time ago. but we have so much greater context around it because you knew everything that was going on, and we are so many years ahead of that. Right now, like my husband is in medical stuff, and even all the epidemiologists are like, well, this is what we think, but we're 3 months into it, or we're 2 months into this disease. Like, you can't really have this big like projection of all of what's to come, or how it's going to pan out, or what the effects were on the world or on nature or on global warming. Like, we can't make all those projections because it's something that's brand new and we're literally living in it. It's something that's only 3 months old. If something big like this were to happen around like the common cold or a regular flu pandemic, you know, the vaccines that they have every year for the flu, you have like this long history of understanding what like that disease is or how it typically affects and how long it lasts. And we don't have any of that. Everybody's just like in this moment right here. And so I think there's a lot of stuff that we can't answer that question.
Yeah, you
clearly.
know what that is by definition? That is faith.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
Yep.
And so what are you going to put your faith in? You put your faith in doctors or your health or your money or whatever.
Right.
And God says, put your faith in me, because as soon as you know, faith is gone.
Right.
Right? As soon as it's like looking for your keys. It's always in the last place you look. Well, yeah, you idiot. Why am I going to keep looking for my keys if I'm holding them? Yeah. Although I have done that. I've looked for my keys while I was holding it. So here's how I answered that, kind of in a broad, general perspective. We make life always about here and now. We always make it about here and now.
Right.
And life is not necessarily always about here and now. The bigger picture is being told from the beginning of our lives to the end of our lives. But even at the end of our lives, it continues. Yeah. Right? And we have this relationship with this eternal God that the day will come when he'll make everything right and the world will be right. And the air will always be clean. Yeah. Not just like it is now because nobody's driving their car. It will always look like that. And so what we get uptight about is, well, how could God allow a disease to come in and kill the vulnerable? Right. Well, how is that possible? Yeah. Well, have you ever watched a movie? Okay, so let's just say Die Hard, all right? And I'm guessing that's...
a Christmas movie. Okay.
Well, yeah. I do it in my spare time, Lesley. But
when he's bored.
Yeah, when I'm bored. You ever watch a movie where there's a really bad guy in it?
Right.
It's amazing how quickly you get to in that movie where you want him out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we're rewatching right now with this whole thing at night. We basically watch Lost every night.
Okay.
Funny.
And we're rewatching, and that was my favorite show, and I haven't seen it in 10 years, and so we're just rewatching it. And I just am remembering, like, every third episode, there's a moment where I'm like, just shoot him. just shoot the guy.
You're a Christian music leader at a church, and, like, you want him to be killed.
If I was there right now.
If I was on that island, man, I'd have put the bullet in like 15 people already.
I mean, we all have that, right? And the problem we have with something like corporal punishment is we don't know if that person is guilty or not, if they're bad or not. In a movie, we know. We see it. Yeah. It's right in front of us. We know. Yeah. Well, God knows. Yeah. He knows if there needs to be a plague, who needs to be taken out. Right. Okay, let me show you the other side, too. Yeah. If it's a bad person that is taken out by a plague, well, he knows whether or not they would have ever turned to him or not. Right. Okay? Right. But what if it's a good person? Mm-hmm. Well, he's giving them early graduation, early retirement. Right. He's taking them out of this difficult world and putting them in a better world. Right. Right? So either way, it is hard to grasp that you there is a God that would allow something this terrible to come in and actually have people die. Right. But he has a eternal perspective that we don't have. Right. Does that help, or is that lame?
What's interesting is when we argue that point of like how could a loving God do this, is like, well, what's your alternative though? Like, your alternative doesn't make the problem go away. You know, like you just have to define it some other way. Well, there's no hope at all, and you know, the people who die had no hope of anything. Right. And so it's really kind of a, you know, it's like when things go bad and then our inclination is to kind of shake our fist at God. It's like, well, what's your alternative? And then there's a lot of people who are like, well, my God wouldn't do that. And they have a whole different God that didn't do it. I don't know. It's
Interesting. So my son works for an organization that does artificial intelligence. It reads contracts.
Okay.
It finds out different clauses for people.
Okay.
And as soon as coronavirus came out, they came out with this clause that looked for acts of God in contracts.
Okay.
A plague is considered an act of God.
Wow.
Anything terrible you can think of is always considered an act of God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
We have a different perspective, though, on the acts of God. We believe that God will and can and most likely will do amazing things from this.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. No, there'll be a lot of good from it, but it doesn't take away the fact that it's really hard now. And there's people who have family members who are dying and they don't get to be with them in the hospital before they die. And it's hard to console somebody that's in that. I mean, it's hard to, sometimes if you're in a really dark spot, it is hard to find good. So
Lesley has a great idea that they're doing, because there are certain things that we mourn. Like the first week of coronavirus, we were deciding whether or not we were going to go to Hawaii.
Right.
If we
I'm
had
supposed to be in Hawaii right now.
I know. You are. If we had gone, we would not have been able to come home.
You should have gone then. How awesome. I actually told Josiah was my son. He was looking at tickets like I could go to Hawaii and get stuck there, and then that would be amazing.
Oh my gosh. Josiah.
Right. For my wife's birthday, which was just this last weekend, we're going to go to Palm Springs and hang out with my son. And you can't get an Airbnb. I mean, those are obviously dumb things. Like, there's no comparison to what other people are going through.
Right.
But it's okay to mourn what we've lost a little bit. So what have you guys done?
Well,
we've started it.
Oh, you
based
did?
on you, yep.
The funny thing is we started an I wish jar, basically, that anytime my kids are like, ugh, I wish that I could see Sydney, my cousin. I wish I could see my cousin right now. Or, oh, I wish I could go to this restaurant. Or, oh, it would be so fun if we could, go do this or that. We started putting those I wish things into an I wish jar. And we said, it's kind of a bummer we can't do them now, and it's hard, and sometimes it's hard for younger kids to understand. But I said, there will come a day when a lot of this stuff is available again, and how grateful are you going to be when you get to pull out that thing and say, remember when you wish that you could see Sydney? We're going to see Sydney right now. Cool. Remember when you wish we could go to Yogurt Heaven? How grateful are you that we get to go to Yogurt Heaven right now? The funny thing about that is that week that we started it, especially my daughter, she was having mostly just like a longing to like see friends, and like probably a big part of not really understanding like, well, why is it? And am I the only one? She didn't really understand it was happening to everyone. Like, why can't I see this person, or why can't I do this? And so we started it, and everybody had kind of included some things in it. And same thing, like Matt and I were supposed to have an overnight date night one of these days that had been on a calendar for a long time. We had a concert that got canceled, whatever. But now, as like in the last week and a half, we haven't had those anymore. We haven't had those I wishes. So I don't know if then now my kids are just grateful for the things that we do have now, or if they've settled into a new norm. It's probably a little bit of both, but it's a realization of, oh yeah, I actually had a lot that I took advantage of before when I had the freedom to go wherever and do whatever with whomever I wanted.
Yeah. There are certain areas of great gratitude that we have that not everybody has. Mm-hmm. I have a great wife, and I have amazing kids, and my older kids call me, and those are things I'm super grateful for.
Right.
So I'm trying to remain grateful for those things.
Right.
Yeah. I think I was really hurt a lot in the beginning too, thinking about people that didn't have that. There's a lot of kids who are in like very bad situations now that got to go to school and escape a lot of things, and now they're probably primarily responsible for their siblings, if their parents are still working, or maybe they were subject to abuse and now they're in that situation. There's like, I know people who have marriages that were on the rocks, and now like there's no outlet for, 8 to 10 hours a day where you can refresh and then try to come back together and like keep fighting for each other and for your marriage. And so I don't know what all of that is like for those people in those situations. So those are the types of things when I was having a really hard time in the first couple weeks that I had to change my mindset of like, this is hard and this is frustrating and this is too much, to being like, wow, I'm super grateful that I have kids that aren't even like, I'm grateful even that my kids aren't in high school, because I know that a lot of kids in high school are missing a lot of things, and they don't, some of them, except for Jonathan, don't, and Jack actually too, don't like their parents, or they don't like their siblings, or they don't want to be in their home, and they just lock themselves in a room all day. And, you know, I'm even grateful that my kids are young and they're like a little bit annoying because they're on top of you all the time, but they want to be home. Like, so it's, yeah.
I think it's okay to be in that season of mourning, right? To mourn a little bit of that, to grow to that season of gratitude, I think is where we need to go. But you can't push anybody to get to that spot either.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who have things that are a lot harder than me. We were driving to drop off something on my mom's doorstep, and there was a big apartment building, and I said to my kids, like, you know, you think your house is small, our house is small compared to your friends, but man, we have a house with a backyard. Like, those people are in an apartment, and maybe their grandparents live with them also. You don't even know, or you don't even know how many people are there. Mm-hmm. But I definitely had a mourning face.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so I found this article. It's on Shabbat.org. It's this Jewish site. Her name is Shana Weisberg, and she wrote, like I said, it took me 3 pages to get to something I thought was really good and usable about what she's learned from coronavirus. But I thought maybe we could, if there's something else that you've learned, feel free to throw it in there. But we kind of work through some of these things, all right? There are 10. I don't know we're going to talk about all 10, but here's number 1. No matter how powerful or advanced we think we are, ultimately, we're not in control. God runs the world and will run it exactly according to his own plan and his own timetable. How has this hit that chord of being in control?
It's still, I think still to me, and I think it might just be the way my broken brain works, because I feel like it's still like out there. Like there was, for the first week or so, it was like, okay, this is coming home. And then it never came home. Like we still haven't had really any kind of hit from the coronavirus, other than the fact that we don't get to do what we normally would do. But it was like, I think that somehow that's the way I process too, because I know that for me, like people would ask me about when Sandy would be pregnant and the kids were coming, are you excited? I'm sure I will be when the baby comes. Like
That's a weird thing, man. You didn't feel that because I bet you bonded with that baby the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, you feel it kicking and moving.
Yeah, but I didn't feel that way. Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
You're broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the control, like we have zero control.
Right.
Right. We want to go for a walk, and our county is telling us you can't walk in the canyon behind your own house.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't. The amount of decisions that you get to make are so few.
They're arresting people on paddle boards in the ocean. Like it's like, what are they gonna do in the ocean on a paddle board? Like this. Yeah. It's a weird
in
time.
A whole bunch of water.
I think what you do find is with stuff like this, like people just go crazy. Like they're just like, I don't know, I should do something to help stop this thing. I'll stop that guy from camping. Like,
right.
No, I think it's more of like you have to set a precedent. And if you say these places are closed because they're, for example, like Torrey Pines, you can't be 6 feet away from somebody. Like if you are going up and down
on
that trail, you don't have any space to go. So how then do you say like, okay, well, these 6 mountains or these 6 trails are closed, but not these trails that are in Scripps Ranch? Like that's this huge debate in our community about these trails, and people keep taking down the signs. And
So the place I get myself to, I can get real worked up about the dumb stuff, right? Yeah. Just here's my favorite: the guy driving down the street in his own vehicle wearing a mask.
He doesn't want to get himself sick.
Alone. He's alone, and he's wearing a mask.
Yeah, he's probably like.
But there are lots of people.
The store.
There are lots of people making decisions, and you can get yourself.
Okay, well, I have another pushback on that.
Locked.
I do think it is funny, but one of the things I know a lot of the scientific stuff because Matt's on all these calls all the time. One of the things that they say is good about masks is that it prevents you from touching your face. So they said that even if you're not sick, it's great as a preventative to not touch your face, that you could have germs. So technically, if somebody went to the grocery store and was in a place and was touching stuff that was not good for them, and then they got in their car and they had their mask on, the mask would still be protecting them from touching their face, so they couldn't contract it. So I just wanted to give you some perspective.
I did not need that perspective. I will tell you this though. Once I heard
I'm just
that,
telling you, not be so critical of people.
no, I'm going to continue that. One thing I have learned about myself is like I can't stop touching my face.
Yeah. You know what does not help you stop touching your face is using the phrase "touching your face." like it subconsciously causes everybody.
The moment you say it. Now, Lesley, what I'm trying to say is that we don't have control, and my healthiest spot is not second guessing what everybody is telling me. Because I can go down all these rabbit trails of, come on, man. Come on, idiot. I'm going to do, why are you making me do this?
Right.
That doesn't help. Zero control. I just have to give up that control. And really, control, we never really have it anyway, do we?
No. I mean, it is a weird thing to have freedoms taken away. Like, just not weird in like it feels oppressive. It just is weird. Like we've never experienced that where they're, like just basic freedoms. Like there are places in the world where they have they're controlled as far as what they can do. We've never experienced that. So it's just like, wait, I can't do what? I probably shouldn't say that it was my father-in-law, but my father-in-law said that he always wore his seatbelt until they made a law that he had to wear his seatbelt. And then he's like, they can't make me wear my seatbelt. Now he wears a seatbelt again. I don't know if he got a ticket or what. But.
Yeah, he got one $500 ticket from the state of California. He's like, all right.
All right, I'll wear
I do believe that there's an illusion of control that we have, that really God is in control
Yes. Yeah.
of our lives. But this is it's hard to be in that space right now.
When we lean into when we lean into that, when we lean into this idea that God is in control, then that helps us navigate the fact that, that guy who's telling me I can't go in the canyon is also not in control. Like that's helpful to know that this is bigger than that guy. This is not me against him or me against whatever society is currently telling me I can do, but that God can override all of that and he can make the peace where there's no peace. And I feel like that's helpful. That all right, this is a season that the Lord has us.
Sure. Her second point is God will take care of us. That we have to lean into the fact that the story's being written, and at the end of the story, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously there's a natural like hoarding tendency that happen, especially in the very beginning. And I have a group of friends that are all on a text string together. And when somebody's like, hey, does anybody have any coffee creamer? I don't want to go to the store for just that. Or, you're like,
I got 18 cases of it.
No, but like, so just today, somebody was like, oh, we're so awesome. Costco finally had toilet paper. We got a pack. And one of my other friends was like, oh, that's so good to know. We like are down to our last few rolls. And my first friend said, well, split it with me. And she was like, no, it's fine. We'll like see if we can go get it. And I'm like, no, that's the whole point. Like she trusts that I have 24 rolls, but I'm going to give you 12 and we're going to still be okay. Like that's the whole point of it. Like I think especially in the beginning, our tendency was like, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just going to control the things that I can, which is like buying 25-pound bags of flour or something.
Right.
And then over time, you're like, oh no, I'm going to give it away. And just like hundreds of times that have happened in my past, God is going to be like, okay, I'll find a way for you to get whatever it is that your family really needs now.
Yeah. Okay, number 3. Some of the greatest solutions are the simplest. Wash your hands, keep yourself clean, don't spread negative infection. Okay, we don't need to talk about washing your hands, but I do want to ask you, Jonathan, how often are you showering?
As much as ever. Well, I didn't for the first couple of weeks as much because typically it's twice a day because it'll be like I work out and all that. So now it was like less than that. But I'm trying to stay clean. Like Sunday mornings when we do church, we did a little thing where we had people send in pictures of themselves in their whatever they were wearing, watching church on TV.
Right. Yep.
And they didn't have to go anywhere. Sundays, I'm like, it's just like I can't break this. This is what I do. I get up, I take a shower.
Oh my gosh, that's so impressive. I put on jeans for the first time today in a month. So I have showered, and you will be happy to know they still fit me just fine.
Even with all that sourdough bread, huh?
Okay, number 4. How we react to others in times of distress says so much about who we are. I'm seeing such generous offers of practical help for those in difficult situations. Some people, I'll give you an example. I was on my scooter and I ran into Larry Roop. And Larry is just, he really should be called Saint Larry because he's always looking for somebody to help. And he said, I've been reaching out to the hospitals and sending notes and got other people involved. We sent like 100 notes. And then I heard from Carly DeSager, who's at one of these hospitals. She says, we have this wall of people writing nice things, and half of it's from our church.
Right.
What an awesome community we have.
Wow.
It just, this situation kind of amplifies it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And I kind of wonder if people are experiencing that differently in different places. I do feel like that's something, we're part of a very generous community. Even if there's no virus, they're a generous people, and they're always, their eyes are open for the needs of other people. It's just an amazing thing that we get to be part of. But I kind of wonder if other people are seeing the complete opposite of that, where you do go in and shelves are empty. And it's not because shelves are empty because they're going out to share with somebody. They're like, I got to make sure me and
you're right.
nobody else gets all this stuff.
And I have thought about this so many times, Jonathan. You told me one time you are the sum of your 5 closest friends. And I feel like that's so true right now in this moment. If your closest friends, the people you're talking to on the regular, are bitter and resentful and anxious and hoarding and not giving, I think that your experience would be a lot different. It would only continue to perpetuate that feeling. And so, I feel like being in a community of church people where we're being fed that of this is hard and this is scary, but we're doing it and we're in it together, and God is with us and He is for us. All of those things, plus being around, with not being around, I wish, but text messaging, good friends that are, pouring those things into your life instead of those anxious producing thoughts is really helpful.
Okay, number 5. One virus is spread like wildfire, utterly changing the world. If this is true in the negative sense, imagine the power of something positive, how infectious and powerful one good deed can be. I think you basically just made that point, right?
Yeah, Matt made a comment the first week. He was like, how everything now on the internet goes viral? Well, just so you know, this is literally what viral means. It spreads so fast you can't contain it. And that's true. That can happen with positivity and negativity,
well,
for sure.
It also, I think, goes to show just how close we are to each other. The fact that something in China could, within a couple of months, affect people in San Diego.
That is also mind-blowing to think that every single person in the entire world, no matter where they are, has experienced the similar things that we are experiencing right now. That is a really mind-blowing idea of all the different, cultures and socioeconomic status and gender, all the differences that you could have with somebody that lives in some other far-off place in the world. They're experiencing the exact same thing with coronavirus.
Okay, I love this point. Too often, we're rushing through the mad dash of life. As we hunker down with our loved ones, we can reevaluate our priorities and what's really important.
Yep.
This is God. If anything, I would attribute to God. It's Him telling us to pump the brakes on all the other stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
Because we're running, man.
Yeah.
I talked to Jonathan, the first week or two, or maybe it was the second week. And I told him I was really frustrated because I felt like the first 10 days I heard God saying I am showing you how to Sabbath since you clearly don't know how to do it. I'm showing.
This whole thing is God telling Lesley to slow down.
So sorry, guys. I ruined this for everyone. But I felt like I told him, telling me, use this time to figure out how to stop and slow down.
Yep.
And then it was day 11. They were learn this app and get these 685 million texts from people and learn how to do this and figure out how to do online learning and do Zoom and come pick up your Chromebooks for your kids and do this and be on these calls. And I was so upset because I feel like we cannot get away from our human nature that we want to keep filling our lives with things.
Yeah.
We have this tendency of we cannot just sit and enjoy our family. We can't just leisurely go on a walk very easy. And the aha moment is, even if the world stops, nobody is going to create that for you.
Yeah.
You like have to find a way to create it for yourself.
On the other side of that, to make you feel like you need to do more, I did see on Instagram, I saw this thing of, I'm going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of, if your excuse has always been that you didn't have enough time and you're still not getting it done, had nothing to do with time, you're just too lazy to get it done. Like now that you have all the time in the world and you're still not learning the skill. So, but I back to priorities. I think we just took a trail off of that.
No, I think I do think that it is because work becomes so important. You know, shoot, man, I look back on 30 years of being married.
Yeah.
None of my great memories of my life, wife, family, any of those have anything to do with work.
Right.
None of them.
Right.
All my greatest memories are with my family. Now we have an opportunity to make more memories in this time.
Right.
And it's good. Okay, number 7. Our children and the people around us are looking to us for direction. If we demonstrate terrible frenzy, it snowballs into mass hysteria.
Thankfully, I haven't learned that yet, so I think that's a good sign, right?
I think so.
If I didn't,
that's kind of your superpower, though.
Yeah. Turns out you don't really get worried about anything.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that we had this conversation. So this was the conversation we had in our house. My wife and I, we were talking about it, and I said, you know what? I honestly think a lot of people around us may be more scared than us, because I think maybe the bigger fear right now at this point, because we haven't seen a lot of sickness, is what is this financially going to do to us? And for like, so I told Sandy, I was just like, you know, I think people may have a bigger fear of that than us, because we've never had anything like we just back to where we were 2 years ago, you know?
Right.
And so, and we've already, like, I was talking to somebody else about it. I was like, apparently there was a big financial something in 2008. I didn't feel it. Like life was the same for me, you know? So I think that there's something to that when you just kind of, I don't know, we've just kind of lived never desperate, never hungry ever. And yet never like, I got to maintain because I have so much.
Yeah. There's certainly health to that. People, I just got off the phone with a friend today, and he was talking about, he works with a lot of people who own a lot of property. They're multi-millionaires, and they cannot sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that's the danger of having everything and having much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember 2008, because I was pastoring this church.
Right.
Shockingly. Nobody else will hire me to do anything. I have to stay here. So we were down like at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think it was like $20,000.
Right.
And in January, somebody wrote us a check for $20,000. Like God has been faithful to take care of our needs over and over and over again. I think we'll find that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think too, when you're, you know, I've really kind of, as far as my doing, has prioritized ministry. And weirdly enough, in the midst of trial, the value of God and community of faith is elevated. It's never diminished in a time of trial. It's like that's where people go, man. So so there's just a sense of we'll be all right. You know, even if the world changes, we'll still be all right.
Okay, I have 3 more in 3 minutes. But so, like, if you want to go look on this website, it's great. It's at shabbat.org. Good article. Number 8, this is a Jewish phrase I'm not familiar with, and I don't know that I understand it, so maybe you can help me. There is no person that doesn't have his time, and no thing that doesn't have its place.
No person.
There's no person
It's
that doesn't
basically
have
everything
his
has
time.
its time and place. That's a normal common saying, right?
I look at Ecclesiastes. There's a time and purpose for everything under heaven.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it fits here. I don't want to talk about it. Number 9, humor goes a long way. The language of the wise is healing. That's a proverb.
Is there any sense, though, of like, because we'll make jokes in our house that I'm just like, I'm not sure that joke would be very good if it was public. Like, just is there that's when you're laughing about something that, like, okay, people are dying around the world, And we're, anytime somebody sniffles or coughs, like, oh, there's your coronavirus, or, like, and it's keeping it light of the situation, but yet at the same time, you're just like, but this is a really serious thing that's happening right now.
I still feel like it's really healthy. It doesn't mean you're not sensitive to that, but when my dad was really sick and we moved him into an assisted living facility, and he had Alzheimer's, so people there don't think clearly, and we would come home and have like the biggest belly laughs over
the things people were doing,
the things that people were saying and doing, and it was not like, oh, this person isn't worth anything, or it was just, this is the only way we can get through something that is so out of what is normal and expected and is so hard for us to deal with, that this feels good to
that's healthy. Okay, I love this last one, number 10. Worry is often worse than the disease itself.
Yeah. I think it was Jelaine that told us that she wanted to just lick the table and get it over with.
Well, Jelaine, she's always saying to me, this is my wife, Jelaine's always saying that, she always looks at me and says, you're not going to die first. I want to die first because I want to get to heaven before you. I don't want to do this without you. So she says, I'm not really worried about dying. I'm fine. Just, I'll get corona and die. That's okay. I just don't want you to do it.
No, but I have said that to so many new moms, especially. I remember, I have friends whose husbands travel, and then you have your first baby, and then you're like, what am I going to do when I have to do this all by myself? And my husband's like gone on this work trip, or they're deployed or whatever. And the most anxiety is that like week before they leave, and then they're gone, and you're like, all right, well, I have no choice. I'm just going to do it. Like all the worry leading up to it is a million times worse than, which is why all the stories that everybody wants to hear about is like, what did it feel like when they had the coronavirus? Because you want to know, like, if I get it, what's going to happen? And then I can deal with it. But it's just the worry of like the pending or the unknown what is to come. That's
I don't watch any of the negative stuff. Yeah. Like none of it. But the first week I was like watching like numbers. And that was like wrecking me. I'm like, okay, this is a big deal. And it was, so I was kind of ahead. I pulled my kids out of school before school shut down. My wife came home from work. Yeah, but I was ahead of it. I was ahead of it. They hadn't even said it, and I was like, no, this is serious. And then I don't even know that was the right thing. But I was watching numbers. But my wife will look at like this is what happens. Your lungs do that. And I'm like, I don't want to know any of that stuff. Like, I do not want to hear any of that. That's not where my mind wants to be. So we try to distract a little bit. And then I watch Trump.
Living in that.
I think it's funny. I watch every other day I'll like watch some of his address because I think it's funny. And I don't say funny in a good way or a bad way for the listener out there. I think it's funny. His interaction with the media is entertaining.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't think God wants us to live the next month or whatever in a state of worry. It's just not going to get us where we need to be.
Yeah.
I think he wants us to. This whole deal is all about where you find your confidence and your security.
Yeah.
And if you try to find your confidence in your money or even your parenting or anything else, will let you down.
Yeah.
But if you put your confidence in this God, he tells us, look, I got you. Yep. I'll take care of you. And if you look backwards, he's taking care of you.
Right.
And worst case, he says, I'll take care of you. I'll bring you home.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Did we get 10 steps? It was just good to see you guys.
Yeah.
I miss you.
I know. All right. Keep checking back. The episodes, we're still around. So the episodes are still coming at you. So keep checking back every Tuesday. We should have a new episode up is the goal. We're still making them. We're just sitting further apart.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time. Thanks for joining us for these last 10 steps. If you'd like to join us for another journey, or if you know someone else who's on this walk, subscribe to our podcast at 10 Steps Further on iTunes, or simply search 10 Steps Further on your podcast app. And if you'd like to be part of the conversation with a question or a comment or a criticism or even a wisecrack, look us up on Facebook. We've created a Facebook group where you can be part of the conversation. We'll see you next time.